Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. As you can see, I am a Lone Ranger this week. It's Taylor Collard here. And I'm just here to go over UFC 295, the grand coming of Tom Aspinall. What more can we say? Tom, I called a little bit of anxiety in the pre-fight podcast that we recorded last week. I was very, very nervous about how Tom would go into this fight, about, the curse of British sport sometimes, and would he be able to pull off the Bisping as we all hoped that he would. And I'm sitting here right now extremely happy that he has. Tom's an incredible athlete. And to do it in the manner that he did, to do it in the Tom Aspinall manner, I mean, you don't know what someone's like coming off the couch on 2 weeks' notice. I think 17 days was what he came in at the end. He talked about the back injury that he had kind of going into the fight, and that he kind of wasn't really able to do too much training going into the fight. And obviously, you've got the trip over to New York, jet lag, all that kind of thing, and you had Sergey Pavlovich, who had been already preparing to maybe fight. I think he was going to be the backup to Jones and Miocic. It's kind of weird that he wasn't fighting Miocic anyway, but that's a story for another podcast. We might get to that to the end today. But Tom came in there and did what Tom needed to do. He took some very vicious punches early on, and it was quite worrying to see that. I kind of cringed back, and I was a bit like, oh, that's not good. But yeah, to see Tom's movement, his confidence in his hands, because I think what you normally see, especially in heavyweight MMA, is that they get cracked like that, and then they'll try and grapple. With Pavlovich, you've seen it. It didn't happen with Ty and Derek Lewis, but Curtis Blades tried to do it when they fought, and I was pleasantly surprised that Tom backed himself to continue in the firefight, because I don't think Tom's been hit like that yet in the UFC anyway. So a massive achievement for him, and the future is so bright. His options right now are endless, and he could go on to be one of the greatest heavyweights that we've seen in the UFC. I mean, his resume absolutely says that. I mean, he's only been to a second round once with Andrei Arlovsky, and he's knocking dudes out or finishing dudes. Volkov with the kind of straight arm lock that he got on Volkov at UFC London. The same in his comeback fight. His comeback fight was in July of this year or March of this year, one of the two London cards, I think July, against Marcin Tybura. Was it Tybura? I can't remember. I think it was Tybura anyway. And he just dominated him within a couple of minutes. And yeah, I think there's definitely levels in heavyweight MMA. Once you start getting to your Tom Aspinalls, Pavloviches, people like that, the levels go up quite a way. But if you're Tom Aspinall, apparently they don't. Apparently he's just on a level of his own, and he, for me, is standing out right now as the only heavyweight in the heavyweight division. Just the footwork, the speed, the combinations, the way he can put things together. And he also has that power. He has that knockout power that he's proved on every single occasion he's got in there. He hurts people, he gets close to them, and he causes big problems. And he's a trailblazer now for British heavyweight MMA. You look at obviously what Phil de Vries has achieved in KSW, Mick Parkin also coming into the UFC now. He's got his second fight coming up actually this weekend. So he's a real pioneer for heavyweight MMA, and what they're doing, with his father at the gym there and bringing in all those heavyweights for him to spar against has really paid off. Really paid off. And you see it in his skills. His skills are second to none. I think if you look at the division, who's better than him in any part of MMA? Who's better than him? It's really tough to think about anyone that beats him in any part of the game. Are we getting carried away? Maybe a little bit, but the evidence proves that we're well within our rights to, because he's ended pretty much every fight in the first round. Like I said, apart from the Arlovsky fight. And He's just looked an absolutely phenomenal athlete ever since the moment he stepped inside the octagon. And to do this on 2 weeks' notice is just incredible. Incredible to be out of the country, to be almost on holiday, to then have your back problems. Amazing. Can't speak highly enough of Tom. And I think, you know, I'm seeing it break through into the mainstream British media. You know, the Daily Mail, the BBC are picking him up and things like that. And they're also starting to pick up Leon Edwards as well. So it goes to show that British MMA really is on a real upward trajectory. And we're bringing out some really top level athletes. So onwards from here, onwards from Tom Aspinall. What do you do next? How do you fix the puzzle that is heavyweight division? So let's break it down. Francis Ngannou wins the title off of Stipe Miocic. Goes out. An interim title is brought in. Cyril Gane beats Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis succumbs to his Texas curse. And Cyril Gane becomes the interim heavyweight champion. Everyone's talking about Cyril Gane. Tom was kind of on the fringes of the scene at the time, but everyone's talking about Cyril Gane as the next generation heavyweight because he can move his feet. He's got fast hands. He comes up short against Big Francis in their fight. Francis basically got kicked for 2 rounds and then decided he was going to wrestle. And wrestle he did. We did not see that coming. He absolutely dominated Cyril Gane in those last 3 rounds, really. And Cyril Gane just did not look like he belonged in that octagon. So then Francis unifies. He was already the champ anyway, but he becomes the undisputed champion. And then you kind of go into those contract issues with Francis and the knee issues. You know, his knees kind of gave out on him before the fight, and he did it with a broken ACL and MCL, I think, maybe in both knees, but it was serious. And he's out for a year. Okay, so what are you doing? In the meantime, Johnny Bones Jones has taken his 3 years off, and he's starting to pipe up and say, oh, you know what? I'd like to take on this Cyril Gane fella. Let me do that. So that happens. The big fight happens between Cyril and John Jones, and John Jones destroys him, absolutely destroys him within a round. And again, he makes Cyril look like he does not belong there. Absolutely makes him look like he does not belong there. So if you're Cyril Gane, you're now thinking, okay, well, what do? I lose to a guillotine choke in the very first round to a guy that's been out for 3 years, and it's his debut in the division. And Cyril's not a small heavyweight. You know, he's similar to Tom in his movement and the problems that he poses, but he just lacks the skills that Tom has. So then you've got John Jones as the champ, and then you line up this legacy fight that would have been this past weekend at 295. Tom, meanwhile, is coming back from his injury to fight in London against Tybura. Everything's looking fine and dandy. It looks like the stars are going to align. Sergey Pavlovich completes his knockout against, I think it was Taito Ibasa, to kind of cement himself as an up-and-coming contender. And you're talking about, okay, is it going to be Tom and Sergey for the #1 contender fight? Why they didn't book that for 295 anyway? I don't quite understand. Maybe, I don't know what happened, because both fighters seem to have been ready. Both fighters were available. So to me, it would have made sense to book that for 295. So then you come to the last 2 weeks. John's injured. Long injury. Very, very long injury. The belt stays with him. That fight's off. Okay, so what do you do with Stipe? Well, apparently, who knows? He says he wanted the fight. UFC says he didn't want to give him the fight. Whatever. You've got Tom, who is unquestionably, in my opinion, right now, the best heavyweight in the world. John Jones is not the best heavyweight in the world for me. Tom Aspinall is. Why? Because John Jones has only fought 1 fight at heavyweight. And he fought a Cyril Gane who had a very, very clear path to victory. Against Tom Aspinall, he does not have a clear path to victory. It's as simple as that. And I think Tom Aspinall beats John Jones. Maybe not in the fashion that we've seen, but I would bet fair money that Tom Aspinall would be the first person to finish John Jones, whether that be by knockout, submission. That's what I think. That's what I think would happen. I think when you put all of the factors into play, age, wear and tear, Tom's performances, John being inactive really for the 3 years apart from the Cyril fight, going on 4 years now. That's how I think that would have played out. So for me, Tom Aspinall right now should be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And then if Stipe Miocic wants to come in and get that fight, then he comes in and gets that fight. So that's the way I see it. Tom is the greatest heavyweight in the world at the moment, and he should be the full undisputed champion. I think we've seen the UFC strip champions for much less. And I think only because it's John Jones, they've not stripped him. Similar to Francis, I think, but obviously the contract negotiations made it a little bit different. But I think John Jones's name has got him out of a stripping here. Oh, sounds a bit weird, actually. Got him out of a stripping, but anyway. Has got John Jones lucky. Let's put it that way. So what do I want to see next? I want to see Tom Aspinall go and defend the belt. Have the undisputed belt and go and defend it. Not against Cyril Gane. That guy, yeah, he's probably the next contender in line, but I don't think he deserves it. He ducked Tom Aspinall in Paris. Tom Aspinall was there in Paris. He called that shot in July and said he was going to be in Paris. So I don't think Cyril Gane deserves to get that fight. Jalton Major, no. I would probably do Almeida versus Gane. I think that's a fight to make, although Gane's probably not going to want to fight down. But I think, hey, you ducked the champ. You ducked the guy. You know, was Cyril Gane the first guy the UFC thought to call for this opportunity? We don't know, but it doesn't sound like it. Would Cyril Gane have taken that fight against Sergey Pavlovich? We don't know. You know, maybe that should be also a fight. Sergey versus Cyril Gane. And then Tom, I guess if Miocic wants to come back, get that Miocic fight. Otherwise, yeah, I think Cyril probably is the only person you could throw him up against. Unless you want Jalton Almeida to jump the queue. It's tough. It's tough. Let me just have a look at the heavyweight rankings here and see if anybody else jumps up. I mean, you've got Derek Lewis is coming off a loss, but he was ranked 10th anyway. So he's probably not getting anywhere near it. Let's have a look. So you got Jones, Aspinall, Gane, Pavlovich, Miocic, Blades. Could you run the Blades one back? Yeah, possibly. Possibly. It's a tough sell, I think. It's not the most fan-friendly fight, and I think Blades just dropped out of that fight against Jalton. And he's coming off a loss to Sergey Pavlovich anyway. So, and the win before that was the Tom Aspinall one. So, yeah, I think it would have to be Tom calling for that one for the fight to actually materialize. But I think it would be the only other fight you could do. If they want to book Cyril, yeah, okay, I don't think he deserves the shot, but I'm still going to watch it. So that's that argument. Let's move to the main event of the card. The main event of the card, obviously we did Tom first. Main event of the card, yeah, Alex Pereira doing Alex Pereira things. Just doing what he does. Those leg kicks. Those leg kicks are not nice. I don't think you want to take one of those leg kicks. I think it's quite an underrated part of his game. Everyone looks to the left hook. I think John mentioned it in our preview podcast that the left hook was going to be the way that would do it. I said it would be a straight or something like that. And it was in the end a left hook that caught Yuri. But I think the damage from those leg kicks was really what kind of got him. It stopped his movement. It stopped his stance switching, because you almost saw him go to stance switch instinctually and then back out of it because he knew that the leg kick was coming. So he kind of stopped himself from switching stances, which I thought was quite interesting during the fight and just showed the actual impact of the leg kicks were having on Yuri's performance. And then Alex Pereira just goes and knocks him out and just becomes a 2-weight division champion. What a phenomenal achievement for that guy. And just how likable he is. You know, the pop he got was one of the biggest pops I heard on the night. I think Favola also got a massive pop. But Pereira's was probably one of the biggest ones that I heard on the night. I think he's so popular among the fan base. I love him. I think he's great. I think he's going to be hopefully a great champion. I'd love to see this. I'm really intrigued by the Jamal Hill fight because I think Jamal Hill has more power. And I want to see that chin tested at 205, see what it looks like. And I think that's the fight to make, obviously, depending on what Jamal's timeline is. I think you've got now Blachowicz, Rakic coming back. I mentioned him on the podcast a good few weeks ago, and he's just come back round. So that'll be an exciting fight. That could be a #1 contender fight. Usually the guys that beat Blachowicz are the #1 contenders. Would I be keen to see Blachowicz and Pereira again if Blachowicz wins? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Blachowicz is out there saying that he's got unfinished business. He's not happy with the stoppage. The decision that came out last time. I remember it being controversial, and that he probably deserved something more. So yeah, that'll be an interesting fight. I like the fights a lot at light heavyweight for Alex Pereira. And I think there'll be a lot of fun. I hope he can stay around in the division for at least a couple of title defenses to really cement his legacy before he bows out. Because I think now he is kind of getting on a little bit. If I have a look again at Tapology of the profile to find out what his age is, I think he's probably pushing 35, 36 by now. So let's have a look anyway. Prachka versus Pereira. Alex Pereira. See, I mean, that record is ridiculous. 9-2-0. It's unreal. So he's 36. So 37 in July. So he could get another 1 or 2 title defenses in before then. And if we go back to our friendly rankings, you've got Jamal Hill, injury pending, Yuri Prochazka, Magomed Ankalaev. That could be an interesting fight. Blachowicz, Rakic, Krylov, Walker. I mean, I don't think Krylov's going to be getting a shot. Johnny Walker with a win over Ankalaev could put himself in the frame. But that would be a fascinating fight. That would be a very, really good fight. But I like all those fights for him. I like Ankalaev because he's got a clear weakness in the leg kicks that we saw in the Blachowicz fight. I like the Blachowicz rematch. And I also like the Rakic match. We need to see what Rakic looks like coming back after injury. But I think there's some really good opportunities. I think light heavyweight now might start to see some consistency, hopefully, since John Jones left the division and we had the back-to-back injuries. So that should be a lot of fun in this division. What next? I will just touch on yes, Benoit Saint Denis. I called it in the preview pod that I thought Saint Denis would make this look easy. In my opinion, that's exactly what he did. Favola really struggled with his pressure, struggled with his well-roundedness. It didn't look like Matt really got himself going and found a way to get past Benoit Saint Denis. And that dude is a star. He brings a full country with him. He'll definitely headline a UFC Paris, if not next year, the year after. Could that even be a title fight? If you look at his trajectory, he probably needs 2 more fights to get there. If you go to the lightweight rankings, for example, so we've got obviously Islam at the top of the tree there. Charles, Dustin, Justin, Beneil, Chandler, Gamrot. I think the next fight to make would probably be Saint Denis against Gamrot or Zarukian. One of those two. I mean, you've got Rafael Fiziev in there, but he's obviously on a super long-term injury, so I don't think he's going to be in the frame. So yeah, you match that next year, maybe. Gamrot, Zarukian early next year. You do Islam against Oliveira. Are they going to be lining up Connor if he beats Chandler? You never know. So yeah, I think Saint Denis is 2 fights away. And by 2 fights away, I mean Islam fighting twice, defending twice. And then because you look at Islam's timeline, he doesn't tend to fight that often. And then also two fights for Benoit Saint Denis. So he's going to have to beat, a 10-5 guy and then maybe a 5-1 guy. So if Beneil, I think Beneil's just been matched up, has he not? Let's have a look. So if Beneil's matched up, so he's matched up against Zarukian on a fight night in December. I think that might be the Shanghai card. But anyway, he's matched up against Zarukian. So you let that fight play out. So the fight to make is Saint Denis versus Gamrot. I think that'll be a tremendous fight because Gamrot, similar to Saint Denis, is a well-rounded fighter and brings it in all parts, although his wrestling's probably his strong suit. So that will be a fascinating fight. And then, you get him to fight. If Dariush can come through Zarukian, you probably do Saint Denis Dariush. That could headline a Paris card for sure. Islam's probably going to fight Oliveira next. And then maybe, hopefully, Justin Gaethje. That's a fight I think everybody wants to see. So get those 2 fights done, get 2 fights for Benoit Saint Denis, and then I think he gets a championship fight. Possibly Abu Dhabi next year. maybe Paris the year after, but that's a long wait. You know, Paris 2025, that's a long wait. That's a long wait, especially to get 2 fights in. But that's the nature of that division. Then you just don't know what the wild card Conor McGregor is going to do, really. So, yeah, really, really exciting stuff at lightweight. And with that being said, I've rambled enough. I've got mega dry mouth. So please go like, subscribe, comment, join the Combat Sports UK community, support the pod, support us. We'd love to hear your questions. We'd love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments. So please drop them in, what you thought of 295, where you'd like everybody to go, what you think of the matchups, and how it all plays out. And stay tuned for later this week for a preview of Paul Krieg, one of my favorite fighters. I'm looking forward to diving into his performances a little bit. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. See you next time on the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast.